Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kenya White. I'm a volunteer and staff here for the organization. I'm also an entrepreneur with my own businesses. But I'm here to introduce our speaker for today. His name is Scott Seltzer. Scott has been with IBM Development and Sales for the past 12 years. Then he founded the American Voicemail Network in 1991. At AVN, he built his own platform, which provided telecommunication services to the small business community. AVN became ConnectMe Voice. And Scott is now the CEO of ConnectMe Voice. CMV provides hosted phone services to businesses of all sizes, and hopefully he'll be able to provide those services to your businesses. So let's give a round of applause to Scott for speaking to us today. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Kenya. Thank you. All right. So again, I'm here to talk about cloud-based services and sort of explain a little bit about what that is, and more specifically really about cloud-based services when it comes to communications and telecommunications in particular. So let's just start out by defining the term, what is cloud-based services. And really, if you think about the way a company would traditionally bring on a new application for their business, is they would go out and they'd buy a server, or they would have a server, and they would install an application on that server, and then they'd be able to access it from the various clients in their office. With cloud-based, the difference is you're not going out and buying that server, and you're not having to install that application, which means you don't have to have the upfront capital, you don't have to have the expertise to develop that application. Instead, a hosted service provider or cloud-based service provider is going to run that application for you. They're going to have it running on their computers, and since that's their core competency, they're typically going to do that very well. And you're going to access the application from normally a web client or some type of an internet access, and in some cases that internet access might actually be a phone that works over the internet, for example. So basically what it really meant is that it's going to run the application on someone else's servers, not on your servers. And so one other example I'll give is a Exchange server. So let's say you want to have email in your office. Instead of going out and buying an Exchange server and running that application there and having to worry about maintaining it, you're just going to access the email through an Outlook client. So one of the big things about cloud-based services, of course, is they're going to bring down costs. Because if you think about it, if you go out and you buy a server and you buy an application, it's going to really not be the economies of scale as opposed to having that application and having that server run somewhere else where they've really gotten it down and they've gotten the pricing down. Procuring services, of course, is much, much more efficient with cloud-based because typically you can add new lines or new seats or whatever it is you're looking for sometimes instantaneously. You know, no need to go out and buy new hardware, no need to go out and upgrade your application, upgrade your servers. You can just procure additional services. You can grow, you can shrink, whatever you like, very, very quickly. And again, you know, one of the big things is focus on your business's core competency. So let's talk a little bit about phone services and how that applies to cloud-based services. So what is a PBX? And it's an acronym we throw around, and without getting too much in detail about that, we'll just say it's basically a business phone system, right? So it's a phone system that's going to help your business present a professional image to your customers and help your call flow and help you provide customer service by routing calls. And we'll talk about some of the features in another slide. To run a PBX through the clouds, what you're going to do is you would use a cloud-based provider. And so all that PBX functionality is now sitting there with the cloud-based provider. They're focused on presenting these features or keeping them up to date, consistently adding new, latest features, so you're never stuck with an obsolete type situation. So far as the specific equipment that you're going to need to access, we have telephones, physical telephones, like some of the ones you'll see out there in our booth, that just basically plug into the internet. So you're saving money right there because instead of having to go out and get phone lines from a phone provider, you're just plugging these phones into the internet and paying a monthly service fee for the access. So you can use a physical desktop phone. It can be a cordless phone. It could be what we call a soft phone, which means you're taking an application, you're putting it on, let's say, a laptop, for example. You take a headset, and now all of a sudden you've got a phone through your laptop. What is really nice about that is you could be someplace in Europe and log on to your laptop, and then you can sit there and make phone calls for free all day long, and you could be part of your office system if you wanted to. So somebody could press extension 102 from their office and get you on your soft phone in Europe. So there's an awful lot of flexibility with the access. And as we'll talk about a little later, most hosted providers, such as ourselves, will also route calls out to cell phones or route calls out to landlines, so you don't always have to be at your internet phone. Okay, so the difference, again, between the cloud-based and the premise is with the premise service, you may be able to get all these features, but you're going to have to go out and spend money for the hardware. You're going to have to install it. You're going to have to run it there on your premise, make sure the environment is proper for it. You're keeping it running. You've looked into disaster recovery and business continuity and things of that nature, as opposed to just accessing it from phones or through a web client. So how mature is the hosted phone services business? How mature is cloud-based services particularly? Well, you see the numbers there. 2.1 million lines have been deployed. So what we're saying is it's not a new upstart type thing. Businesses are accepting it. They're finding that the quality and the reliability is there, and that's why there's a prediction right now that it's going to go to 15 million over the next several years. So what are the operational challenges that we're addressing here? Well, one would be growth in a virtual organization, right? So when we say virtual organization, a company may have employees working out of their home. You may be geographically dispersed. People may be working on the road. Whatever it may be, you want to be able to present a phone system that allows people to have access to all the features anywhere they go, the same way they would as if they're in their physical office space. And that's one of the real beauties of a cloud-based phone service. Disaster recovery and business continuity, well, again, what we're talking about here is the hosted phone provider is going to make sure the servers continue to be operational and running. That's what we do for a living, and so that's what we're focused on. And it's not necessarily what you'd be focused on. And let's say if you're in an office and your internet were to go down, what happens then? Well, the calls all start with the cloud-based provider's servers. So they go there first. And then we're going to route those calls out to you. If we can't get it to your phone that's connected to the internet that's in your office, we'll try and get you on your cell phone. We'll try to get you on a landline. We'll try to get you somewhere, and if we can't, we'll send the call to voicemail. You won't get a fast busy. You won't lose the call. So, it is great advantage to have this for just to be able to always be available to your customers. So total cost of ownership is, of course, one of the things we look at when it comes to all the different components in it, not just the money you may spend in long distance and local calling, the money you may spend for the access lines, but also worrying about outdated equipment. Usually you go out and you purchase a phone system, and in 5 or 6 years, it is obsolete pretty much every time. So, and moving it can cost money. We don't care about geography with the hosted. So you can move it all you like. You can take a phone and you can take it anywhere you want, and it works the same way. So there's no challenge with moves. And when we're talking about existing contracts in broadband, a lot of times companies find that when they look into it, they can get a lot more broadband for the same money if they just take a look at what's out there. So the broadband that's required to run the hosted phone service typically doesn't have to impact the money you're spending for the broadband. So how do we save businesses money? Well, because, again, total cost of ownership, not having to go out and buy this equipment up front. Maintenance contracts can frequently be as much as the phone service provider is going to charge to begin with. So, and again, the revenue generating calls and disaster recovery, business continuity. So what size businesses can this be good for? Well, the SOHO, the single home user, it's perfectly suited for the single home user. And again, they get, for a home-based business, the same type of features that a Fortune 500 company may have with the phone service. Because just because you're home-based doesn't mean you don't want to have the same level of professionalism and the same ability to route calls. You have the same needs as a large company. So all those features come with you in a home-based setup. And of course, for the larger businesses, some of the things we really think about here is, besides the cost or the scalability, how fast can you grow? How fast can you change? And with hosted, we're extremely well suited for that. Multi-location friendly. We don't care about geography. If you have a New York office and an LA office and you pick up the phone and you dial 3 digits, it makes no difference where you are geographically. The call can go through. There's no cost. And of course, we're going to keep our software in the clouds there updated with features constantly, because that's the business we're in to do. So you're always going to have access to those new features instead of being stuck with hardware you purchased. And I'll mention high def real quickly. People think of voice over IP calls as sometimes having less quality, and is it as good as standard phone calls? Well, I can tell you that it's as good as standard phone calls, and it can be far, far better. A call made from one high-def VoIP phone to another has a much, much broader frequency range, sounds like an in-person conversation rather than a standard phone call. So we're no longer talking about being as good, we're at far superior now. Let's talk about some of the features you get with a cloud-based or hosted IP PBX. 800 service we're mentioning, but it could be an 800 number, it could be a local number in New York, it could be local numbers in Los Angeles, or in Hong Kong, or in London. So you can have phone numbers from all over the world come into your same phone system and either be routed to one central place or to route it to particular people's extensions. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility there. And by the way, if you already have a phone number, you can have that number moved or ported over to the hosted service provider. And I know that's extremely important for anybody who already has a business. Faxing can also be done from a computer. The faxes can go to email. Auto attendant basically means, thank you for calling ConnectMe. Please enter the extension of the person you wish to speak to. Press 2 for sales, 3 for customer service, or 9 for dial by name directory. So that has total flexibility. That's just an example. We can do it any way you want to do it. 3-digit dialing, of course, as I mentioned. You may dial someone's extension. It may not go to their VoIP phone. It may actually go to their cell phone, because we can route calls any way you want to have them routed. We use Follow Me to do that. So Follow Me says, okay, if I'm not available at my desktop phone, then I want you to route the call to my cell phone, but only between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m., and I want you to screen the call and tell me who's calling before I decide to accept it. Yeah, and if I'm not found there, then try me on my home phone, but only till midnight. So whatever it is, you keep control of your time. You want to be accessed by your customers. You can be. But you don't have to be. It's completely under your control. Or your company may not want to have all the calls go to an auto attendant. Many of our customers, for example, want to have calls go to a receptionist, answered live. They want real rings. They want a person answering every single time. That's fine. We can accommodate that, and we do. So you can have a person answer. You can have it go to a few people and have them answer, and then transfer calls to the appropriate person. If no one's available to answer, then it can go to an auto attendant. So that's really what we're talking about when it comes to the routing. Call recording is another important feature that you may want to be looking at. Call recording just allows your company to be able to control the quality of your phone calls. And there's all kinds of applications for that, from a customer service call center to just wanting to go back on conversations to see what was said at various times. It's one of our more popular features. And again, we're talking about ACD calls. Basically, that's the ability to route calls to a group of people in a controlled manner. So you want it to go to all of them every time at the same time. You want it to go to whoever's least busy. And again, we don't care about geography, right? So someone could be in New York, someone could be in Los Angeles. Implementation is very simple. Basically, if you take a telephone and you plug it into your network, it's turned up live. So it's now accessed our system. We're going to provide the phone numbers. We're going to provide the ability to move your number to our service. So basically, you don't really need to have the technical ability. Sometimes we do need to make sure you have the right network, make sure you have the right routers. And so we'll either help you with that or work with your IT people to get that done. All the controls are through an easy-to-use web portal. So that's basically all I had for this. How am I? And any questions you have, I'll be available over at our booth right out there.
Can it be hacked?
Can it be hacked? It is, everything we do is secure. Anybody who says something can't be hacked, but everything we do is on a secure backbone and a secure server. So we do everything you possibly can do for security.
Is this a public cloud or a private cloud?
It is a private cloud because you have to be registered to our server to access it.
But it's your cloud. It's not Amazon or Microsoft.
It is our platform and our cloud, yes.
I'm going to ask that if anyone else has any other questions, that Scott will be available at his vendor table outside. Scott, thank you so much for sharing your presentation and talking about cloud-based business communications. Thank you all for attending this particular presentation. We'll have another one at approximately 5 p.m.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.